My name is Alistair Lee, and in this video, I'm going to walk through the template editor in Adobe Experience Manager 6.2 Forms. Templates help you get up and running more quickly when you're designing a form. When you create a new form based on a template, it automatically pre-populates headers, footers, and default fields that you can use. Now, templates aren't new to Adobe Experience Manager. If I go ahead and create a new adaptive form, I'm given the option to select from one of several different templates that are available out of the box. What's new in Adobe Experience Manager 6.2 is the ability to create your own adaptive form templates. This way you can create your own templates so that they're consistent across all of the different forms your form authors are creating, as well as consistent with your organization's brand. Let's take a look at how to do that. I'm going to cancel creating this new form here. Click on Adobe Experience Manager and choose the Tools icon to see some of the administrative tools that are available to me. I'm going to click on Templates and select the global folder so that the template I create will be made available to all of my form authors. Here there are no existing custom templates, so I'm going to create my own template out of the box. And I'm given the option to create an HTML5 content page template or a template for an adaptive form, which is what we're going to do in this video. So I'll select the adaptive form template and click Next. Now here I can give it a template title. We don't have an existing template for webinar registrations, so I'm going to call this my webinar registration template. I can give it a description and click the Create button to open this template in my template editor. With the template open in my template editor, it really doesn't look like much. We're really starting here with a blank slate. One of the things that I can do is start adding some components to this template. And in fact, there's two different views I can use to manage the template. Up here in the top right-hand corner, I can see those two different views. The first is the structure view, and that gives me the ability to manage the structure, the format of the adaptive form template I'm creating, adding, for example, specific headers and footers that all of my form authors will use. The next view is the initial content view, and this gives me the ability to define some default content that will appear as my form authors use this template to create brand new forms. So let's start by looking at the structure and adding some of those components. I'm going to open my sidebar and choose to look at all of the different components that are available. Now, there are a lot of components here, so I'm actually going to filter this down just to the adaptive form components. And here I can see some new components released with Adobe Experience Manager 6.2, including a new adaptive form footer and adaptive form header. I'm going to drag this adaptive form footer onto the footer section of my adaptive form. And I can edit this if I'd like, simply by clicking it and clicking on the edit icon. I'll add my fictional company name here. And maybe italicize the footer text and click OK. So we've just created a custom footer that will appear on this new webinar registration template. The next thing I might want to do is add a header. In this case, because we're looking at webinar registrations, I'd actually like to add an image component to my template so that my form authors can add their own webinar imagery. Now, as I hover over this component, I can see that it's locked, and by locking and unlocking components on your template, you're giving your form authors the ability to change or not change those capabilities. So in this example, I want to give my form author the ability to upload their own webinar imagery to their forms. I don't want to lock them into a specific image, so I'm going to unlock this component. It will still default to have an image component at the top of their new adaptive form, but they'll be able to customize and configure that component. My footer, on the other hand, is set to be locked. That means they're not going to be able to edit that footer component on their new adaptive forms. So I think we've got a good start now on defining our structure. Let's move to the initial content view so that we can start defining some of those default fields that will automatically appear as our form authors are creating new forms. Because this is a template for webinar registrations, I always want to capture somebody's name and password. and have them submit the form. So I'm going to add those fields as default fields for my initial content. Let's scroll down to the text box component. I'm going to drag a text box onto my form. I'll configure this so that we can use it to capture somebody's name, giving it a new name as well as a title, and click OK. And I'll follow that up with a password component, dragging that onto my form. Again, quickly configuring it. And clicking OK. And finally adding a submit button. Once I've added my initial content, I can see what it looks like by clicking the preview button. Now, we haven't defined an image ahead of time, so the image isn't showing up, but I am getting my initial fields as well as my submit button. I'm happy with the way this looks, so I'm going to close my preview and then enable my template by clicking on Enable and then Publish. So we've just created a brand new adaptive form template that's available for the form authors to use as they're creating new adaptive forms. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to click on Adobe Experience Manager, click on Navigation, go to Forms and Documents, and we're going to create a brand new webinar registration form. I'll click on Create and then Adaptive Form. And you'll see we've got a new template that we can use to create our new adaptive form. I'm going to select the webinar registration template that we just created and then click Next. This is going to be for a Shapes webinar that we're going to be delivering shortly. So I'll call this my Shapes webinar registration. AEM automatically provides a name for me. I can provide the description and add tags as I'm setting up my adaptive form. I'll click the Create button and open this up in my adaptive form editor. And now that I've got it open in my adaptive form editor, you can see that all of my default fields are already available. I've also got my custom footer. Note that I can't edit this custom footer. As I hover over it, I'm not able to select these components to change them. This image, on the other hand, though, I am able to configure. So I'll click on the Configure button and browse through my digital asset library to select an image that I've already uploaded. Let's click on Geometrics and Webinars, select the large banner image that I've got in my digital asset library, and click OK once I've got that selected. Once I'm happy with that, I can continue to add additional fields onto this registration form as needed, simply by going and dragging those fields right onto my brand new form. Because these other fields were created with the initial content layout, I'm also able to edit these fields if I'd like to change any of their properties. As you can see, templates are an incredibly useful way to get your form authors up and running more quickly, becoming more efficient. They're easy to create in Adobe Experience Manager 6.2 Forms. Thanks for your time.